she doesn't need him anymore, she'll dump him.
What don't we know about them, or what area of their life hasn't been examined? We've obviously had endless reports about them from themselves as well, including their Netflix series and Harry's book, everything over the last few years. What's been sort of the one area that possibly will be, ripe for examination is the last 12 months, because there has been a lot of redirection for them, as you've mentioned. There's been, deals collapsing, so the last 12 to 18 months, deals collapsing. Meghan's launching a new business that has had a few twists and turns and snafus. And there have been more reports than ever about the state of their relationship, both professionally and personally. We don't know what the truth of that is, but I don't know that this book will be able to also find out for sure, but that's an area that we haven't examined, and it's an area of, I think there has been some turmoil, just even professionally. We can see that from the way that some of the businesses and their ventures have gone recently. So that's probably the part that I'm interested in. I hope there's not more re-examination of prior to that, because surely we've done that now, even by them. We've all talked about it.
It's the relationship between Harry and Meghan that is the most fascinating, because we have body language experts, you have all these kind of experts coming on saying, oh, they look like this. We see videos of them in Colombia. Harry looks grumpy, Meghan trying to take centre stage. We all analyse it all the time, and it fills online, it fills the newspaper, it fills social media. It would be nice for someone to actually give us some revelations about what is actually happening.
Exactly.
I'd be absolutely delighted if they were having a wonderful time and having a wonderful life out there. I mean, that'd be fantastic. But people will be interested in what is going on behind closed doors at Montecito.
Absolutely. I think it's the state of their relationship right now is what people are interested in, because there has been so many contradictory reports about how they're faring in their new life. I say this because it's been 5 years since they left, but how this life is panning out for them in California, and whether or not that has been helpful or detrimental to their relationship. I think that's the part we want to look at.
He's also... Sorry, Hugo.
I live in a certain amount of chaos, and I found a copy of Hello magazine lying on the floor, and I picked it up, and there was a picture of Prince Harry grinning and looking so happy. And I thought, hang on a minute, what's this? Dated from 2015. He does not look a happy man now.
No, we've discussed this a few times, and there's been many occasions, I think, particularly in Vickers in Canada recently, where and I was in Germany in Vickers a couple of years ago, and there's just a change. When Meghan arrives, everything gets tense. When she's not there, Harry's having drinks with his friends and stuff like that. So Tom Barrow also called the Sussexes relentless and restless. Do you think that's an apt description, particularly in the last couple of years?
Yes, I do. Yes, I certainly do. I mean, as I said before, they're always having to change direction. They're always having to go to new things. And I think that's why there's a certain amount of tense behaviour in their office, because, sort of nobody knows what's the next thing is going to happen. If things are going well, then people on the whole actually are usually quite calm and enjoying themselves. But if things are going badly, it's like, that's your fault, we've got to move on, you got that wrong,
That's a really interesting point. So the fact that they're diving off in so many different directions kind of shows there isn't like a proper management or a proper course, an agreement behind the scenes.
Well, I would have said so. And I watched a little bit of the cooking programme, and she's sort of dissecting petals and scattering them over salads in other people's kitchens. I mean, there's no recipe given at the end. There's no way of following these things. So it's not really about food. It's all about her.
The Relentless and Restless, I think that piece that came out earlier this year in Vanity Fair, I think that spoke a lot to professionally why that seems to be the case. Those words especially, in the terms of them not really having a clear idea of what they're doing. And we have spoken on this show a few times about how that seems to boil down to the post-royal identity crisis for both of them, which is that they are in a royal no man's land. There isn't really a blueprint for them to follow to find success, career-wise after leaving working royal duties. And so therefore that has to add a lot of pressure. And it also could, the fact that they don't seem to have landed on paths, although Meghan is in the midst of it now, and we will see how this new venture plays out for her. But for Harry as well, it doesn't seem like they've really figured out exactly who they want to be or who they're supposed to be after leaving the royal family.
Do you think they're at a crossroads, or they're at a junction at the moment in their career? Or?
I think Harry still is. You sort of get the impression that he'd be really happy to just sort of be surfing and doing some charity duties every once in a while, but that's clearly not Meghan's focus. And that in itself is a relatively relatable issue, which is when couples reach those points where they're branching off with different goals for their long-term future. Meghan wants to be a billionaire celebrity. I think Harry appears to be happy to just do a few charity engagements and focus on those things that he likes. But outside of that, yeah, it has to be adding pressure to, and of course we don't know for sure, but from the outside, it looks like it has to be adding pressure.
I'm looking forward to hearing more from Tom Bowen. We'll try and get him on the show and see what else he knows. Hugo, you mentioned about you watched Meghan's cookery show, which we've all had to sit through and digest and write some exciting copy on, or in my case, try to avoid writing any exciting copy on.
It did inspire some very good praise from the commentators, I thought.
I thought everyone excelled themselves, didn't they? Both sides of the Atlantic.
I particularly liked the line, I think it was Hilary Rose in The Times, who said, imagine the face of the children expecting a piece of cake in their goodie bag when they find some seeds in a decompostable pot to plant it in.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
Well, there was no children in the they had children's party and no children. But have you? It was with a heavy heart I have to talk about Meghan's latest podcast episode. Has anyone been listening to it? Did you listen to this week? Oh, sorry, Bronte has her hand up.
I did put my hand. I did listen. I will say this. They're clearly good friends. Katie Lee is a very accomplished businesswoman.
Well, they pay each other compliments a lot and laugh at each other's jokes. Does that necessarily mean that they're good friends?
I know. I'd like to go on the show and just be lavished in praise. It seems to be what you get when you go there. But I actually look. It was genuinely a pleasant conversation. But again, this is supposed to be providing tips and insight into building business. And I was about 2/3 of the way through when I realised they hadn't touched on that at all. And that's the purpose of the podcast. So it just doesn't seem to be leaning into anything meaty or anything that you can really take away from it, or its purpose. So that was my review of this one. As I said, it's a pleasant one. I don't think you'd be particularly gripped by it. I was doing other stuff while I listened to it. It was fine, but I didn't take away any solid tips, unfortunately.
Did you get through it, Hugo?
I'm sorry, I've been rather busy. I haven't had a chance to listen to it.
I don't think me and you are the target audience anyway. Let's be honest.
So, no, but it's the same thing. Is that there's, there are other people who are much better at telling you these things. There are other people who are better at doing cookery programs. There are other people who are better at advising how to found a business. I mean, they're sort of latching on to things. Well, she is in particular, and it's just hard to see where it's going. I mean, I hate to say it, but my feeling at the end of the day is that Prince Harry is kind of petrified of her and petrified of losing her. Do you know that kind of syndrome people get into? Mm-hmm. See if I'm right.
No, I think it's been phrased that way. That I think there was an article in the United States that said that she's just awful, but he's an enabler, and it's almost like he's aware, but he can't actually get out of it or do anything about it.
The other thing which is so sad is that when he does things like, well, the Centre Barley charity's gone wrong. Invictus Games, he still does, but he's very good at those things, and that's what he's been trained for.
Yes.
And he hasn't been trained for any of this stuff. And he's not very good at it. He's brought in I only watched the very end of the cookery programme to see him brought in, to sort of smile
very brief.
Nervously, briefly. But he has to be there because he has to, like the Oprah Winfrey interview, he had to be hoiked into a chair at the end to show that he was approving of it. Or seeming to.
You say that he's afraid of losing her. Again, of course, we don't know what's going on in their relationship. But with that said, even just speculating on that, you'd say he is someone who is in such a unique position. There is only a small handful of royals and people that had the profile that he has. And you have to imagine that, if that relationship did fall apart for whatever reason down the line, really, where does that leave him? You can imagine that he would be scared of that.
Well, he has to come home, doesn't he, eventually, if he can.
That's probably scary for him.
But the children, well, yes, because he's been complicit in a lot of the things that have gone on, although I think he's been made to do many things. We must be very nice to him if he does come home. But then, of course, there's the issue of the children. And, I see him sort of ending up in an Airbnb in California, sort of trying to get access to them. It could be terrible.